Then the other thing I'll say in that same vein is the mentor, the Professor X I talked about earlier. There was a point at which we would be in our mentoring sessions, and I would lament what I didn't have growing up. But at some point, you have to go and get it. If you know you don't have it, okay, you don't have it. But spending time lamenting that you don't have it is not helping you going forward. So you have to have that peace of mind and that wherewithal to say, okay, well, I need this skill set, I need this knowledge set. I don't have it right now. I can't change the past. How do I go find what I need? I recently gained two new, very valuable experiences in my journey as an author. I experienced vending for the first time and selling my book, The Engineers, A Western New York Basketball Story, Part One, Innocent Basketball Dreams, to a crowd of people who never heard of me or my book. And I also gained experience presenting my book in a panel discussion format. I'm going to revisit the vending aspect in separate content, as yeah, that's a whole separate discussion. And in this offering, I'm going to share that panel discussion, and I'm also going to give some words leading up to my sharing of that panel discussion. Hey all, before we go further, I have a request from this side of the camera. Please smash that like button and also consider subscribing to the channel if you are not subscribed. Hey everyone, welcome back to Big Words Authors 76. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar. I wear several hats, and I do have some experience YouTubing. But over here on this channel, I talk about writing, and I wanted to capture my experiences as a writer. I wanted to have a platform, or should I say, create a platform to present my book and promote my book, The Engineers, A Western New York Basketball Story, Part One, Innocent Basketball Dreams. And I also wanted to network and talk with other authors about their works. So those will all be things that you'll see here, or you'll continue to see here going forward. But as described in the intro, I recently gained some valuable experience book vending and presenting my book on a panel format. That took place at the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Legislative Conference, which, as the name implied, it's an annual conference. It takes place here in Washington, D.C., and it's a policy conference. So it's hosted by, just briefly, it's hosted by the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, which is associated with the Congressional Black Caucus. You can Google that. You can Google them, the foundation and the Congressional Black Caucus themselves, to learn more about them. But in addition to being a policy conference, the conference also has an exhibit hall, a vast exhibit hall with vendors of all kinds, with cooking demonstrations, with pavilions for Merck and Johnson and Johnson and HBCU bands marching in, and all kinds of things. But they also have an author circle, that's what they called it, where authors, veteran authors, and junior novice authors like myself are there selling their books, and also participating in panel discussions. So this was my first time taking part in the conference as an author. Years ago, in years past, I had attended as an attendee. I had taken part in the many social activities. One year, when I was writing for Examiner.com, I earned, I was given a press credential, so I actually covered the conference in that capacity. But this was my first time as an author, and so that involved having my own highboy table with my own banner and my own set of books to sell, and people walked by, and some made purchases, some did not, and there were other authors around, so I was able to network with the other authors and uh, um, form friendships and alliances that I hope will go on into the future, and collaborations that I hope will go on into the future. And I was able to participate in my very first panel discussion. Back in April, I had my first book signing in my home city of Buffalo, New York. But that was different because it was Buffalo. I was from Buffalo. I was the main draw, and pretty much everyone in attendance knew me or knew someone who recommended the book signing. So that was different. And this was a whole different animal, as they say. Um, the panel that I participated in, it was called Journey of a Vision. Uh, I'm sorry, Journey of a Vision. Let me do that again. Let's see if I can. Let's see if the third time is the charm. Journey of a Visionary Diaspora. So our panel host was Dr. Paul Miller, and the other two authors slash speakers were Nejama Smalls and a gentleman named Hotep. So what you are about to watch is that panel discussion. And so before I show that, I want to do two things. I want to thank the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and those in charge of the Author Circle for allowing me to participate this year. I was, as they say, I was green, so I was new, so I had never done this before. I want to thank my our panel host, Dr. Miller, and the other two panelists. And I want to thank those people who at least stopped by to talk to a novice. And I want to thank um, those individuals who actually purchased copies of the Engineers, a Western New York basketball story. And so before I show the panel discussion, I'm going to share how you out there in viewerland, if you want to purchase a copy of the Engineers, a Western New York basketball story yourself, I'm going to share the ways in which you can purchase a copy. Now, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. So, if by chance you've never heard of me or my book and you want to read about it, I actually created a page for it on my writer's blog. So, there is a page discussing the Engineers, a Western New York basketball story, part one, and there are plans for a part two. But if you want to read about it, an overview of the story is here, and I'm just gonna scroll through really, really quickly. Yeah, yeah, there's me. That's the image on the back of the book there. The story of the book is here. There are some basketballs. There's Coach Ken Jones, who was a key figure in the book. And those are some quotes that he gave us as his players every day. There is video content that I created for the book leading up to my publishing it on some of my other YouTube channels. And there are lots of promotional pieces, print promotional pieces that I generated um, for the book leading up to it, promotional essays, and also interviews. I'm sorry, interviews of notable players and coaches from Western New York from my era. So these are all available if you want to read about it and decide if you want to purchase a copy of the book. This is my online store, the Big Words Author Store. And on the store, or should I say at the store, within the store, I am selling signed copies of the hardcover and the paperback editions. So if you want a signed copy, you can make a purchase here using a credit card or one of the other methods. such as Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. The prices here are similar to those on Amazon, which I will show last. But I will, if you want a copy, I can make a coupon code and discount the price for you to some degree. And shipping and handling is built into that price there. And if you are local in the Washington, D.C. area where I reside right now, perhaps I can hand the book to you. That would bring the price down as well, since I wouldn't have to have it delivered. But this is an option for purchasing the book if you want a signed copy made out to you or someone else that you know. And last but not least, The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story Part 1, Innocent Basketball Dreams, is available on Amazon in the ebook, hardcover, and paper book. I have to give it to Jeff Bezos. He runs a very, very efficient operation. If you are an Amazon Prime member, they will get you your copy very, very quickly. And if you have points, if you have enough points, you can knock the price down to 0. But the book is available here as well. There's an overview of it. Pretty much all the information. Well, not as much information is here as there is on my own site. But long story short, this is an option as well. The price here for the hardcover is $35, and the price for the paperback, and I believe the ebook, are both $27. So whichever platform you use, please consider purchasing a copy of The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story Part 1, Innocent Basketball Dreams. If not for yourself, then maybe for someone you know who likes stories, or perhaps a young person who could use the messaging and the themes in this book, because there are many. And well, wherever you purchase your copy, please leave a review. That will be very helpful for me as well. So with that, I'm going to get out of the way here, and let's get on with the panel discussion. And I will end this now the way I end all of my YouTube content. Always remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. The links for everything will be in the description box. And please let me know if you have any comments as well in the comments section below the video. There's also an email address in the description box for a newsletter, which I plan to relaunch at some point. But all of those materials will be in the description box below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the panel discussion.
Yeah. So we'll get started. So welcome. I am Dr. Paul Miller, and I am your moderator for today. I am an author, a speaker, and an educator by trade. Go get a copy of From the Gutter to Greatness, and it's going to help unpack your baggage. It will help transform your lives, because if you unpack your baggage, you can move into your greatness sooner. And so with that, I have some very talented authors on the stage today, and we're going to talk about the visionary journey of the diaspora. And so we have some talented people who I'm going to give them about 90 seconds to introduce themselves. I have Dr. Anwar Dunbar, I have Najma Smalls, and I have Hotep. And so I'm going to turn it over to you first. If you could just tell the people who you are, what you do, and anything that really stands out that's important about your work.
Hi, my name is Dr. Anwar Dunbar. I'm a scientist. I'm a STEM guy. My book is The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story Part 1, Innocent Basketball Dreams. It is a basketball story, but it's also a story about life, and learning how to deal with success and failure and perseverance in the world, and having a blueprint for navigating the adult world. That's something that the game taught me and a bunch of other kids from my area in the 1980s and early 1990s.
So when I hear that, I hear a journey, and a journey of what a game taught him and taught the other young men around him to reach the levels of success that he is reaching today. And how do we do that as a village, and how do we get to people to make sure that people are listening, because there's some wisdom in that, because we all have to find what we connect to get to where we want to go. So thank you, Dr. Dunbar. Next, I have the beautiful, illustrious Najma Smalls. Can you tell us a little bit about your who you are, what do you do, and your literary work?
Sure. Najma Smalls. I live in the DC area. I've been serving in terms of community development and people development in DC Wards 7 and 8 for about 20 years. I am the author of The Black Girl's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds and The Black Family's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds. And both of these books is about us, right? Is about our families, our communities, and touching on the wounds that are privy to us, that we experience, from mommy wounds, daddy wounds, dealing with attachments, dealing with environmental trauma that comes from sometimes living in our neighborhoods and our communities, and gives us a path forward that allows us to heal and be our best selves for not only our family, but for ourselves.
Thank you. Now, I know we all done had some trauma out there. We all done been through some stuff. So literary works like Najma's will help us work through it and help us to heal. So it's very important that you check her out. So last but not least, I have my brother Hotep, can you please tell us a little bit about who you are, your literary works, and anything else that might be relevant?
Yes, sir. My name is Hotep. For those who don't know, Hotep means peace. I'm named after Imhotep, the builder of the first pyramids. I'm actually a longtime creative entrepreneur. I've written over 30 books. My most recent project that I've been working on is a brand called Black Lion and Cubs. It's a family-friendly anime brand with black heroes, and I've written several graphic novels, including this one here. Inclusive of the graphic novels, I also have video games, animations, and a plushie line coming out. I'm a former school teacher, but also a proud father. Very excited about being able to create something in the space of anime, which some of you may or may not know is 99% Japanese. You do not see black faces in the space of anime. What you're seeing here with Black Lion and Cubs is the first and only family-friendly anime brand featuring black heroes. So I'm very proud to represent us in that space. That's who I am, and that's what I'm doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So would anyone like to start off and dig into what their definition of the diaspora is, and what does that mean? And I know I started with that, but maybe Hotep, do you think you could start with what that means for someone that might not know?
So the diaspora is, well, that's a good question. From my understanding of diaspora, I'll put it that way, is all the places and spaces where people of African origin exist. That means the entire world, right? And so all the different cultures that we have, the different continents that we exist on, the different countries and communities that we have encompass what's known as the diaspora. And so, is that about right, Doc?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that about right? Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I think you defined it well, especially being on the spot, right?
Yeah, thank you.
No doubt. I figured with a name like Hotep, my brother should be able to define that. Like,
little something. I hear it all the time. When I went to Morehouse, diaspora, the African diaspora. But to be honest, I never looked up the definition. It was just an understanding of mine that was in context.
And it's a lot about the socialization and the community of who we are as a people, and how do we work to be a part of that diaspora, and then how do we create this journey. And so with your literary works, how have you all created a journey, right? And so my first question is, and I'm gonna go to my brother, Dr. Dunbar, in what ways does your work help others remember who they are and where they come from? And can you share a moment where someone's identity was transformed through a message or story?
Yeah, who they are and where they come from. So this is a basketball story, but a central part of this is family. And through this work, I really got to know my family in ways that I didn't know, I didn't understand. And there were talents in my family that during this journey, I think would have been very, very helpful to me. But I didn't understand that and learn that until later because of our family dynamics. So what I would say to that is knowing your family history, depending upon what it is you're trying to do, that's very, very critical.
Now, Hotep, how has reconnecting with your roots, whether through heritage, family, or art, helped you reclaim your voice in a world that often tries to silence or erase Black identity?
So, I am the byproduct of intention. My parents named me and my brothers with intention. They had us with intention. I've always known from a very early age that, and understood that I was intended to do something great in this world. And I'm grateful to my parents for planting those seeds in us. That being said, I don't even remember your question, brother. Ask that question again. Hold on, it was such a long question.
Right.
I was on to something there.
Yeah,
Hold on.
you were going on
It
the
was good.
Okay. How was reconnecting with your roots, whether through your heritage or family or art, helped you reclaim your voice?
So that's where the connection is, right? So being a byproduct of intention, knowing that I come from a history, a lineage of greatness and of royalty, being named in that spirit and being directed by parents with that vision for us, has always kept me very grounded and connected to my culture, my roots, and my family. And so that's the reason why, creating something like Black Lion and Cubs is just second nature for me, right? When my two children were 2 and 4 years old, I exposed them to some of the cartoons I came up with. My wonder years were the 80s, like this brother here too.
Yeah,
So
me too.
I come from an era where, cartoons, comic books, and video games were just, everything, and hip hop was everything in culture. Those were my wonder years, but outside of hip hop, you didn't really see many of us. Outside of Bill Cosby, what he was doing, the Cosby Show, you didn't see us reflected. So we had to accept the fact that we're watching cartoons or playing games that don't reflect our culture and ourselves. But now, I have the opportunity not to watch and be a customer, or consumer, but be the producer of that kind of content that's necessary for our children in our image, with our history and culture in mind. And so the creation of this brand is just a second nature because of that connection that's always been a part of my life, and I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Now, Najma, for someone feeling lost or disconnected from their culture and identity, what actions can they take to start rebuilding? What does that look like? Because I know you work a lot in the healing spaces.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things I'm a big proponent of is community, right? And I think when we get involved in community, I think not only healing takes place, but in addition to that, we're able to understand who we are, what our gifts are, what our talents are. It's being in a space like this, right? This is community, right? And we get to understand and uplift and center our Blackness, our culture, and so on. And it brings about a level of confidence inside of us, right? That is very much so needed.
No, thank you. Would there be like any action steps, or if somebody wanted to heal, that you would tell them like, go do this, like this is where you start, baby?
Yeah, I think, when you're looking to heal, a couple of things you want to do. You want to start by building your level of self-awareness, right? Because we can't fix what we aren't aware of, right? And so this is where journaling comes into play at, where we start taking note of our actions, our moods, our triggers, and so on, and then we're able to map them back to our inner child wounds, right? And I actually have a journal that is a triggering mapping journal that helps to kind of map those triggers. But also involving a therapist in that as well, right? Your therapist is a part of your wellness plan and helps you to move forward with the healing process. And because sometimes, often, when we are doing the healing work and we start peeling back those layers, it can be hard to see and realize, how we're showing up and how harmful we are to ourselves and to each other. So those are some of the places where you can start doing the healing work. But definitely community. You people heal in community. I'm a firm believer of getting involved and getting in community.
Often that therapy word, especially in our community, sometimes is looked at as a bad word. Like, go pray it away, baby. I believe in prayer, but I also believe that God put therapists there to help us for a reason. And we all have our trauma. I call them our gutters, right? Because when the gutters clog, it's going to damage your house. But if it's unclogged, the water will run freely and you'll be able to do what you need to do. And so just like, I'm going to open this up to anybody can take this question. But can any of you talk about a time when your unhealed pain kind of shaped your decisions, and that your unhealed pain actually caused you problems because you made the wrong decision? And what did that look like?
I'm gonna take that one. So for me, my unhealed pain showed up in my relationships, right? Particularly with my husband. I acted on, especially when we first got married, a lot of my unhealed traumas. I also acted out on the behavior I saw in my family, which wasn't always healthy, right? So I was a child of divorce, and I had a front row seat to watching all of the things, the toxicity that occurred when my mom and dad were getting a divorce. So there was a lot of yelling, there was a lot of fighting and cursing and arguing and so on. And so when you see that as a child, you internalize it. And I believe that was the way that you resolve conflict, right? So when I first got married, that's what I did. I fussed, yelled, cursed through things and so on. And my husband, who's the total opposite, I'm more of the fireball. He's a very introverted, calm, level-headed person. And he was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And that was when, that moment, I can remember when he sat me down and he was like, I can't do this. That was when I knew that I was the problem, right? And that behavior showed up in all of my relationships. That's how I handled things, was through toxicity, through that lens of being a child watching my parents divorce, right? And I thought that disrespecting someone was the way to be seen. And I had to learn particularly that men equate love with respect, right? And so my husband, when I was cursing and all of that, he processed that disrespect as you don't love me, right? And so when he had that conversation with me, like I said, that's when I realized I had to change. And thank God I healed, still healing, and next year it'll be 20 years of marital bliss. God is good, y'all. Therapy is good.
Yeah, please.
I think for myself, particularly in working on this, when you become an adult, you have a perspective that you didn't have as a youth. And I think sometimes when we become adults and we look back at our lives, you kind of ask the question, well, why didn't the elder generation, why didn't you guys do this? Why didn't you give us that? Why didn't my uncle come to any of my games? Why didn't you? And I think I went through a phase where I was focusing on what they didn't do. And my mother told me it's hurtful when you talk about what we didn't do. And I just came to the realization that you have to be thankful for what you got. And you have to do the best with what you have.
Can I speak?
Yeah, please do.
I'd like to speak about it from I don't know if it's a different perspective or a unique perspective, but I like pain. I like pain.
Oh, you one of them brothers like to get tied up and stuff, huh?
All now, hotel.
I like pain.
He know what I'm talking about. He like that too. I see you over there.
Not like that. Now your mind in the gutter, like your book.
It stays in the gutter.
I didn't mean it like that.
Brother. Like
pain,
I am
like
who I am.
So I believe in the process. of turning pain into power, right? So for me, I've adopted this process and this habit of taking pain and utilizing it as a source of power to move me forward. I liken it to being that I have comic books like The Incredible Hulk, right? Anytime The Incredible Hulk gets angry or hurt, he becomes stronger. And I feel much the same, like all the pain in my life has brought me to a point where it enables me to do what I do. I do what I do out of, someone asked me the other day, they said, Hotep, you speak, sometimes like you're jaded or something. I said, and she asked me about the way I spoke, and I said, well, it gives me a sense of edge and urgency, remembering, the things that may have hurt me in the past. So for whatever reason, I don't want to give up my pain. I accept the pain and the bad things that have happened in my life, and I utilize them as a source of power. And I just wanted to share that as a perspective for my colleagues and anyone else that that may be unheard or seldom heard.
No, and I agree with that, because even in my gutter acronym, the second T stands for turn your pain into your purpose, right? And so I definitely believe that's part of the process of actually healing, because you need to find the resilience and strength in it, or people who don't typically aren't able to get through it and are often unsuccessful because their pain is limiting them, and that fear is holding them back.
That's right.
So it's about changing that perspective and perception, and thank you for adding that.
And you got to ask yourself, what am I going to do with this pain?
Right.
What do I do with it?
And that's like, that leads me to my next step, is equip yourself, right? So you equip yourself with the tools that you need so that you can rise. And so to not just sit in it, but do something with it. And that gets me into my next question, which I'll open up again, is so I think of, like you talked about some of your work, Hotep, with comics and the Hulk and some other things like that. I think of Professor X, right? So for those of you who don't know, the Professor X was in the X-Men. He was the mutant who taught mutants how to be mutants, right? And he was the guy who mentored everybody, and he was the guy who turned their rage into like a superpower. And he was able to do a lot. Now I'm assuming that we've all had a Professor X in our lives. We've all had a Professor X who has been a guiding voice to help mentor us. So how did their mentorship shape the way you now show up for others? And that can be opened up to whoever wants to take that.
Well, I'll start. My Professor X, I'll anonymously call him Mark. We talked about all these things, some of the things in here, and he taught me a phrase called creating ecosystems of success. And that led me to start writing and blogging, and it ultimately led to me generating this work here. So, he encouraged me to pass on a blueprint of success to others.
Najma?
Can I say, when I saw the question, when you mentioned Professor X, I honestly thought it was the guy from Public Enemy. Is his name Professor X?
That's Terminator X.
Terminator X.
My bad.
DJ.
My bad. Okay. So anyway, wrong X. But
That's good though. That's funny.
My Professor X was my grandmother. My grandmother was born and raised after the Great Depression in the 30s and 40s in rural Jim Crow, South Carolina. And like you all, I was an 80s baby, and I watched her stand 10 toes down on everything she believed in. I watched her stand up against oppression, any type of injustice she felt in our community. She would stand up against it, and she also poured into me heavily, encouraging me to pursue my passions, encouraging me to be the best version of myself. And she always taught me the Bible verse that stands with me to this day. All things work together for the good. All things work together for the good. Whether it's bad, whatever happens, it is working for your good. And so that is what I try to live up to, and that's how I am the woman I am today.
Hotep, who was your Professor X, brother?
I'd have to give it up to my parents again. I was, again, very fortunate to have a great example set before me by both my father and my mother for different reasons. My father was a very worldly man who had great wisdom and exposed us to different religions, different philosophies, and the theory of great ideas. My mother, on the other hand, my mother was a practitioner, a pragmatist. So after our father would give us the lessons and the wisdom, my mother would say, okay, well look, this is how you take that idea and apply it real world right here and now. And so, like Tupac said, we get our name from a woman, we get our game from a woman.
That's it.
You know, I got my game from my mother. She was a hustler for real. And so yeah, she taught it to us.
You know, so y'all, I had a football coach where I didn't have a lot of positive male role models in my life, but I had this football coach that I don't even think he knew that he was helping me unlock my superpowers, right? And so I was getting ready to quit playing ball, and I said, I'm done. I can't do this no more. And so he actually said, we were in the locker room, and he actually played professional football. He was an Olympian in the track, and so he was well established. And he actually jacked me up. And he looked at me and said, and excuse my language, but God damn it, son, you stupid mother. And you know, in today's terms, kids would be crying like, oh, you can't talk to me like that, right? But he said, why are you going to quit? And I said, well, because the other coach doesn't like me. And he said, well, every day you come in, are you doing exactly what you need to do and giving it 110%? I want you to go out on this field and put somebody on their behind. And every time you get down there, bite down on your mouthpiece and put them on their behind. And if you do that, they will have no choice but to allow you to play. And so I saw what he was giving me, and when I saw what he was putting into me, what I like it clicked. I went out there and I did, for whatever reason, I did exactly what he said, and I was knocking people on their behinds, and then I ended up with a scholarship to play football, right?
Hey.
But it wouldn't have happened if my superpower wasn't unlocked, and he unlocked it in a way by pulling it out of me, and my superpower ended up being perseverance, that I needed to try harder, I needed to get through. So I'm sure that you all have a superpower, and I'm sure that you put your superpower into your books. Talk to me about what your superpower is and how does that reflect in your books and in the journey.
Wow, my superpower. Well, I think I have several actually. One is teaching. There are a lot of lessons in here. I think someone I think earlier kind of looked and marveled at the length of this, but it's a layered story. So there are lessons in here, humor. There's some humor in here, but also storytelling. I think storytelling is my superpower. So anyone, you know, you can make the argument that this is best suited for young men, but I think anyone who enjoys stories will enjoy this story.
Najma?
I'm gonna have to tag on to that one because I think storytelling is definitely part of my superpower as well. Because, and I believe in it, especially in times like this, right? Because I believe everyone brings us a gift, and that's their story, right? And although those stories are sacred, those stories are powerful because those stories have the ability to change perspectives. And I think, you know, we're seeing a lot in our country now where people are trying to tell us about our community that don't look like us or have never spent time in our community or aren't even adjacent to anyone in our community. And this is why storytelling is so powerful, because when we share our stories and people hear them, it has the power to change their perspectives and change the stereotypes and all of the evil thoughts that people have about us and our communities and so on. And so I have to agree with you on that. I think definitely storytelling is definitely one of my superpowers.
What's your superpower, brother, and how's it reflected in your literature?
So I tell people that my life story is a testament to an individual that could never find a way and had to learn how to make a way. So I think my superpower is rested in the idea of being able to make a way despite the shortcomings, despite failures and challenges in life, making a way, but then also teaching others how to do the same. Because I'm a master teacher, and it's reflected in my work like Black Lion and Cubs, because the whole theme of this brand is to teach and remind people that true power comes from within. It's a simple idea that has profound implications and applications, reminding us that the answers, the solutions that we're looking for don't come from external sources. They come from right here. And anyone that even has a spiritual or religious belief still can appreciate the fact that God power rests within you just as much as it rests outside of you. And so that's how it's reflected in my work, is remembering that power comes from here. And when you understand that and apply it, you can change the world and fashion it in the way that you see fit. And that's what I love about making a way.
That's beautiful. What would you say to someone who is stuck in survival mode and can't see themselves as worthy of healing or greatness? So if there's somebody that's stuck in survival mode, because that's what's eliminating them from getting to this journey of being a visionary and coming together. So someone who's stuck in survival mode, what would you say to them, Najma?
I had to do this 2 Christmases ago with my mother. She's always been stuck in survival mode. And I think, a lot of our baby boomer age generation parents tend to get locked in that survival mode because the things that we're talking about today, they didn't have access to, right? Going to therapy wasn't a thing for them. Sitting down and talking about, the things that we have stigmatized wasn't popular in their community. So they kept a lot of things inside, a lot of hurts they internalized and acted on that, right? And so when you're stuck in that survival mode, you're always in that fight, flight, or flee mode, right? And my mom is like that. She lived like that for so many years. And I remember at Christmas, I looked my mother in her eyes and I said to her, I know your childhood wasn't easy, Mom, and I'm so sorry for that. Even though I wasn't there, I wasn't a part of what happened to her in her childhood. I can't take it back. But that was the first time in my 40-something years I saw my mother come to tears, right? And so I would say for you who are stuck in that survival mode, find freedom. Find someone, find safety, that person that you love and trust, and that you will be safe with your heart. You feel that you can be safe with your heart and your feelings and share what's going on and get it out. Get it out. Even if it's your therapist, right? Get it out, because when you give voice, when you voice it, the Bible says the truth will set you free, right? And so when you verbalize it, you're putting it out there. You're getting it out. You're getting it out of your heart. You're getting the pain out and so on. So you want to find someone that you can be honest with, that you can be vulnerable with, that will help you voice that and that can love you, because I firmly believe that love has the power to heal us as well. And so that's why I wrote the Black Girl's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds, is because I wanted the generation above me, I wanted my mom and her siblings, I wanted them to be free. And I have an entire chapter on family secrets, because there were a lot of family secrets that we held on to in our family that was holding us back. And I knew that my mom, my uncles, my aunties, if they had some of the tools that we have now, therapy, community, self-help books, and so on and so on, they would have been better parents, better partners, better community members if they had that freedom. So please find freedom, find safety.
Dr. Dunbar?
I would, one word came to mind, and that's purpose. For this work, I interviewed 43 players and coaches from my area, and a gentleman named Modi Cox gave me a very profound quote, and he said, the 2 most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you realize your purpose.
Thanks.
So I think that once you figure out what that is, it gives you, it becomes like a beacon of light. It becomes like a something to shoot for, and it can help pull you out of a lot of dark places. So try to figure out what your purpose is. What were you put here to do?
Hotep?
In alignment with the point about purpose, I think that a person that's stuck in survival mode has forgotten who they are, right? That's why in the Black Panther movies that statement is very important. You hear them say that a lot. Remember who you are. Right. Remember who you are.
Your identity.
And I think that a lot of people's identity is attached to the idea that we are sinful by nature. And when a person believes that they're sinful by nature, they accept a lot of things in their life that may not have to be the case. So for me, in my household, in my family, we don't believe that human beings are sinful by nature. We believe we're godly by nature. And when a person accepts that narrative, that we are godly by nature, it changed the whole story of what they believe and accept for themselves in their life. And so I would say that a person that is stuck in survival mode has forgotten who they are, and that their true nature is godly.
Right, so it's about reframing your thoughts, because your thoughts are things, and your things turn into actions. So the way you think is how you act, the way you act is what you attract, right? So if you're willing to reframe that, you will work towards getting unstuck. And so, there's a couple steps that I love to share, is that it's about welcoming all challenges. So you welcome them, bring it on, baby, like whatever, you gotta know that it's coming. Anticipate that there will be obstacles, because there's going to be difficult times with those obstacles. Then your greatness will come from your effort. So if you want to be great, you're going to have to put more effort in. And then you're going to have to anticipate and accept that there's criticism. Like, it's okay, learn from it. And then let others inspire you. And those are the steps that you use to start changing your mindset and to work through some of those things if you're stuck. But if we wanted to build a legacy, what are 3 things we must pass down to the next generation? What if we want to build a legacy?
I'm gonna chime in with one. A legacy of emotional healing, y'all, because that's important. We want to pass down to future generations what the whole and emotionally healthy version of ourselves look like. For my kids, I want them to see healthy love every single day. Now that doesn't mean love when we don't argue, we don't disagree. Well, I don't want to slap your daddy, but I need them to see us work it out. I need them to go through those moments, and then we come out, we work it out, and how we are able to show each other, show grace towards each other, and come out on the other side. And also with our friends, right? And especially amongst women, we weren't always taught how to be good friends to each other, right? Sometimes we hurt each other out of our own pain. And so I'm very big with showing my children what being a sister friend looks like, right? I'm big on, I don't get on the phone, my daughter doesn't see me get on the phone and gossip with my friend, because I don't want to normalize gossiping, right? I want to normalize empowerment, uplifting. I want to normalize, I'm going to be there, sister, when you need me. On your worst day, I'm there for you. So please, let's uplift emotional healing and pass that down.
Dr. Dunbar?
Yeah, I think one context that we often think about is a bloodline. Also,
Can you say that again?
bloodline.
Bloodline?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another aspect to that is something financial. Oftentimes you see people ascending to wealth and some sort of enterprise, and they were left something. But also changing the world somehow through story or through example, or making history in some sort of way.
What's up?
So I have one at least. It was taught to me that in this world, it's either ownership or it's slaveship, right? Ownership or slaveship, and we as black people understand what that slaveship means. And so I think for the next generation, what needs to be passed down is more ownership. I was in a panel earlier, and there were people that represented big corporations, Amazon, Disney, some of the big corporations here. And the representatives were very proud proud of having so many black influencers and black directors and black producers. And they said, you know, we have our voice at the table. I'm not excited about having a voice at the table. I want to see us own the table and build the table. You understand what I'm saying? It's not enough for me. And I didn't have enough time to I didn't run that panel, but it bothered me immensely how we took so much pride of being on somebody else's platform, being a part of what somebody else built. But still, at a place like this, we're not talking about the fact that we don't own that space. So that's the reason why actually I wanted to say I'm here on behalf of a network called Black Education Station.
Right.
It is its own ecosystem. It's not on YouTube. It's not on Netflix. It is Netflix. It is YouTube. We own the distribution at Black Education Station. So I want to say that for our future, our generations, to remind them that in this world, it's either ownership or it's slave ship. And it's not enough to continue to get caught by the smoke and mirrors of being a producer or a contributor to something else, but being in charge of it. Because as long as we are at the mercy of other people's decision making, we will always be losers in this race.
And that's important.
You see how Disney tried to do us, Disney and who else was it? Hulu? Target, all of them this year.
They have the right to do that.
That's right. But it's their platform.
Their platform. What you want to do?
Right, so create your own table. That's what I hear. You know, so how is your literary work changing the world? You know, how is it changing the world? What are y'all adding? What's y'all piece to the puzzle?
I will say for me, how it's changing the world. I hear from women all over the world, from not just in the U.S., but from Canada, the UK, Africa. I did a podcast in the UK in 2020. I did a couple of sessions with them, but it's just so interesting to hear how women are participating in the healing, emotional healing journey, right? And especially the book, The Black Family's Guide, now we're getting men in, and y'all know my heart is for our baby boomer generation, and they don't like to talk about this. Sometimes when we tell, our baby boomer generation, we try to talk to them about healing and so on. They tell us we're being disrespectful, right? But I'm honored in that regard to say that people are taking part and participating in the healing journey. And the most testimonial that really prodded my heart was I partnered with an organization called Black Girl Smiles, and she gave out some of my books to young women who were leaving out of an inpatient program. And one girl found me on Instagram and sent me a DM in which she said this book really helped her. She said she didn't have a mom and her father was incarcerated and she was suicidal. She had been dealing with suicidal ideation for many years. This young lady was 17 years old, y'all, and she said she's read the book several times and it made her cry. So, I'm just a little pod and a big sea of people who are doing this type of work, and my goal is I just want to do my part to help our community. I'm focused on us, y'all. I'm rooting for everybody look like me. And I want to do my little part to contributing to making our community better. As I said earlier, we need to stop allowing anybody that don't look like us to speak on our community and try to tell us about our community. We don't need to go to no debates and ask anybody that don't look like us questions about our community looking for their input, right? It's here. The answers are here amongst all of us.
Thank you. Dr. Dunbar, how's your work changing the world?
Yeah, so I would say a couple things about that. I would say the presence of men matters, especially in the lives of youngsters, boys and girls, and as a part of this story and discussions with my mother about my uncle and reflecting on for my games, he didn't come. that matters. And so one of the messages I want to get out is you're an uncle or a cousin or a friend, and you see a youngster in need, and you know the thing that they're trying to aspire, go and show up for that. Your presence matters. Seeing you in the stands, seeing you in the audience, that matters. And then the other thing I'll say in that same vein is the mentor, the Professor X I talked about earlier. There was a point at which we would be in our mentoring sessions, and I would lament what I didn't have growing up. But at some point, you have to go and get it. If you know you don't have it, okay, you don't have it. But spending time lamenting that you don't have it is not helping you going forward. So you have to have that peace of mind and that wherewithal to say, okay, well, I need this skill set, I need this knowledge set. I don't have it right now. I can't change the past. How do I go find what I need?
Thank you.
I love that matters. I love that. That's another book.
There you go.
Mic drop. That matters.
I'm gonna tell you, this for you, my brother, Dr. Anwar. The expression I heard that goes along with that is, not having is no excuse for not getting. You heard that one before. Not having is no excuse for not getting. Okay, you got it. Soldier story. For me, just changing the narrative in regards to fathers, black fathers in particular, and their involvement in their children's lives in the early years. I'm a former kindergarten teacher, and most people look at me and would never imagine that I was a kindergarten teacher because I don't fit their bias or their image of what a kindergarten teacher looks like, right? And Frederick Douglass said it best when he said, it's easier to build strong children than repair broken men. One of the realest statements I ever heard. I'm here to represent for the fathers and represent and make sure that there's a masculine voice in every child's life from birth till 5.
Yes.
Not after 6 and you're ready to play basketball and football, but in the early years. I'm talking about changing diapers. I'm talking about feeding them and all the things that happen in those early years. And I want to make sure that men feel confident and comfortable in that space. That's totally overrun by women. Nothing wrong with women being there, but my point is we need to be present there and have a voice at that table because men matter, especially in the early years of children's lives. So that's the reason why I created a family-friendly anime brand centered around a father who develops other young children and is a very, very strong presence in their lives. That's part of that narrative.
Can I slip in a question, Dr.
So
Paul?
they got time on us. So what I want to do is to make sure that everybody knows where to find y'all at and make sure everybody knows where to get your books at and all that stuff. So if we can start with you, could you, and if you're sneaking in, I can't stop you, right? But if you could just tell everybody where to find you at and where to get your books at and where your booth is at, all that good stuff.
Yeah, my booth is right over here, right behind this curtain, 825, Najma Smalls, The Black Girl's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds, The Black Family's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds. I have books with me. You can find them on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, wherever books are sold, wherever you go. Mahogany Books, my girl Ramonda was here today who owns it. She owns it. And I'm also on IG, Najma Smalls in real life, all the things. You can find me, just look me up.
Dr. Dunbar, same stuff.
Yes, my booth is over there. My book, it's my first book, The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story, Part 1, Innocent Basketball Dreams. By the way, Engineers, that was it was a STEM high school. So that was our school nickname / mascot. Anyway, I'm selling personal signed copies of this myself. This is available on Amazon, the paperback, hardcover, and the ebook edition. I'm looking to expand outwards and partner with others. In terms of finding me, if you Google me, you'll find me on YouTube. I do quite a bit of YouTubing, and I'm on several other social media platforms. Still trying to figure out how to use TikTok, but I'm on most social media platforms.
You got a chance to do that, brother. I tell them gangsters don't dance, so I ain't getting.
Or you need a teenager.
But go.
So I'm not here on behalf of myself. I'm here on behalf of Black Education Station. The booth for Black Education Station, BES, is over there. I just want to recommend and ask that everybody take a look at Black Education Station as an option. We don't have to beg Disney for what they do or don't do. We don't have to plead with the new government about DEI and what they're doing with PBS. instead of complaining about what other people are not doing, let's get behind options that we have that we own are in control of. So I'm here with Black Education Station, the website, blackeducationstation.com. Go there, become a subscriber. I'm giving away, you can't buy my books anymore. I'm giving away my books at the booth as a gift to anyone that subscribes to the network and takes action instead of talking. blackeducationstation.com.
Now, I want to thank you all for amazing dialogue and being the authors and the people that you are. Thank you all for listening. Hey, 820 from the gut of the greatness. If you want to transform your life and take 3 years of trauma off so you can move into your greatness sooner, go over there and get a book. Yeah, and there's kids' books too. The Good Me and the Hood Me out now.com. Good Me and Hood Me. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all for coming. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Earlier kind of looked and marveled at the length of this, but it's a layered story. So there are lessons in here, humor. There's some humor in here, but also storytelling. I think storytelling is my superpower. So anyone, you can make the argument that this is best suited for young men, but I think anyone who enjoys stories will enjoy this story.